of the 10th Senate in the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The 109 senators inaugurated on June 13, 2023, rode on the platform of 7 political parties to win their seats, with the governing party APC in the majority. Election of the presiding officers, Godswill Akpabio and Barrow Jibrin, sets the tone of activities for lawmakers in the 10th Senate.
When we're also going through the kind of socio-economic and political situation that we're going through as a nation, you see that there cannot be a better time, for the legislative arm to collaborate with the executive arm.
The Red Chamber, in the year under review, screened and confirmed about 300 appointees of President Tinubu and still counting. Aside amendments and passage of budgets and supplementary components, Senate passed more than 30 bills to fast-track the implementation of initiatives for enhanced impact on key sectors.
Another one was how to engage those who are on the street, especially the youth, and also addressing the insecurity that is all over the country.
The Red Chamber, in checkmating the executive, also interrogated some policies, urging a review, and instituted investigations on perceived lapses. A good example was the recent introduction of new electricity tariff regime for a segment of consumers.
There's no way we can add this electricity increase now to petroleum subsidy removal at the same time and expect people not to be suffocated.
The motion on Abadan project, which led the Senate to set up the ad hoc committee on Abadan project for 11,886 projects. So Abadan, when I say mega project, I don't mean ordinary projects. A mega project is a project about 250 billion.
The lawmakers also engaged key stakeholders for harmonious coexistence. The Senate met twice with the organized labor, all in an effort to reach amicable resolution of disagreements between federal government and the organized labor. The ongoing constitutional review process with creation of state police on the front burner is among areas of focus for the lawmakers.
I'm also convinced that in order for us to protect our military and ensure that they're able to concentrate on their constitutional role of protecting the national integrity and sovereignty of this country, there's a need to have a state police, that will help to strengthen internal security. The issue of autonomy for our local governments, it's an issue on which the National Assembly had already taken a position. So it's an issue that Nigerians should take up more with our state governors.
My own state needs another state. I come from Cross River North. Abuja was one of the first provinces, and it's the only province that is here to have a state.
As far as the resources of Nigeria is concerned, the Constitution should also look at, because I do not subscribe to the idea of exploration and exploitation of natural resources being in the exclusive list of the Constitution in favor of the federal government.
As the Senate marks 1 year, some moments etched in memory include the sacking of 2 minority leaders and 3 others by court pronouncements, while Senator Ifeanyi Ubah defected from the YPP to the APC. As the Senate progresses into the second year of the 4-year session, lawmakers are confident of impactful performance to positively transform the lives of citizens.
The commitment of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the renewed hope agenda, touching lives, palliatives have been taken care of. And also, he has a listening ear, negotiating with the laborers and all these things about the complaint from Nigeria, which is genuine. So for me, it's just 1 year of good tidings.
Our economy should be strengthened. Our governance system should be strengthened. The institutions should be strengthened and stronger than the individuals. And once that is done, we are good to go.
Lights and, of course, expectation from the 10th Senate. That's in the National Assembly. But from a time where it was all about the leadership tussle, having different Senate presidents between 1999 and 2007, to perhaps one of the most significant actions in the Nigerian Senate called the Doctrine of Necessity in 2010. It's been quite a journey, remarkable journey in the National Assembly from the Red Chamber. Let's move over now to the Green Chamber and see activities and action that they've undertaken in the last 1 year of the 10th House of Representatives.
The 10th House of Representatives is perhaps the most diverse assembly, with the highest turnover of more than 70% new members in 25 years of sustained democracy. This posed a major challenge for the Tajuddin Abbas-led House, which had to organize several capacity-building retreats to brush up members on legislative procedures in a bid to enhance the business of lawmaking. About 1 month into its existence, the House constituted standing committees, increasing the number from 109 to 140 to form the oversight functions of the Green over other arms of government.
Separation of powers does not mean separation of government. We are one and the same government with sole purpose of providing services to the good people of this nation.
For the first time, sectoral debates were introduced featuring the security chiefs and the economic management team. The aim is to receive briefings from policymakers across key sectors.
We're here not to reprimand, but to understand you better.
This is not an investigative hearing. We are just to interact, to hear from you.
The House also unveiled an 8-point legislative agenda to provide focus on issues that touch the masses.
We've had key engagements on the issues of security sector reforms. We've had on tax reforms. We've had engagements on reforming the Electoral Act. We've had several engagements that are key touch points for Nigerians. But at the same time, I realize that, and I'll be failing if I don't admit the fact that Nigerians really are in a hurry to feel the impact, right? And that sense of urgency is what we continue to demonstrate, the fact that we're not far removed from what it is that Nigerians are going through.
Within 1 year of the 10th Assembly, more than 1,300 bills passed first reading. Less than 100 of the bills have been passed so far, including the Social Investment Program Bill and Students' Loan Access to Higher Education Act, which resonated among Nigerians. More than 100 of the bills are being deliberated upon by relevant House committees, while about 80 other bills were referred to the Committee of the Whole.
The first bill I had to make was that of those of national importance, like accountability of the Federal Character Commission, which has a national coalition on yearning of the people that certain sections are neglected in terms of job allocation.
If you look at the issues of this minimum wage, we've talked about it. We said that we have to check and ensure that the remunerations of our workers is reviewed. It has to be reviewed to be commensurate with realities of our economy.
You will notice the body language that devolution of power from the central appears to be the angle. I'm chairman rules and business, so I see many of the propositions that are coming in for constitutional amendment. Many of them have got to do with that devolution of power to the subnationals. And I think that's where we are going.
To expedite the passage of the 2024 budget 1 month after it was laid by President Tinubu, relevant House committees held joint sittings with their Senate counterparts, a practice the legislature says will be sustained. Another novelty in 1 year of the 10th Assembly was a joint sitting on May 29, 2024, with President Tinubu in attendance. In the past, this would only happen during budget presentation.
Continue to collaborate, work together, build our country. We have no other choice.
On this occasion, the reintroduced national anthem was sung for the first time. completion of the new National Assembly Library recently inaugurated by President Tinubu is considered another plus for the 10th Assembly as a resource center that will further facilitate quality legislation in the country. 1 year gone with so much done. However, Nigerians anticipate the outcome and decision of the House on some crucial investigations by ad hoc committees of the House, such as that on alleged job racketeering in ministries, departments and agencies of government, as well as non-remittance of deductions of worker salaries from the National Housing Fund.
NTA's National Assembly correspondents Lami Ali and Mitaire Ipen, they're giving us activities from the 10th National Assembly the first year. So far and so good. Now we've been able to re-establish contact with the former House Leader in the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Mulikat Adiola Konde. But before we bring out all the split screen, we have Professor Paul Namchi and, of course, Professor Imam in the studio here. We've just seen the two reports with the National Assembly in the House of Representatives and the Senate. While I'm trying to still get you to aggregate your thoughts, because you are known to be the direct representative of the people, Right Honorable Mulikat Adiola Konde is now ready to join me virtually in the studio and also interact with you, our viewer out there, on the journey so far. Madam, it's good to see you. Now I can have your voice clearly, and of course our viewer can hear you.
Thank you very much. Good evening and happy Democracy Day.
Oh yes, that's beautiful. Now, as a former House Leader, what is your take on 25 years of democratic governance with respect to the contribution of the National Assembly?
Thank you very much. When you really look at the meaning of democracy, then you begin to wonder if actually we should be celebrating 25 years today. A lot of things make up democracy. A lot of things also qualifies a country that is democratic, for you to be able to say, oh, we are celebrating Democracy Day. First and foremost, the meaning of democracy is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Have we had that? To a point, yes, maybe from 1999 till about 2015. And from then on, I don't think we have a government of the people, because we know how all the elections have been going since then. And in a democracy, the people are represented also, because you can't find all the populace, talking at the same time. So they have to be represented by people in the House of Representatives or the Senate. So has it been the will of the people that the legislature has been doing, or what is happening within the country? And the solutions that have been proffered, is it according to the will of the people? So I will say in the 10 years or so, 2015 till now, it will be difficult for me to say that what has been going on in Nigeria depicts, a democracy, even though Nigeria is supposed to be a democratic country.
At the time you emerged as the leader in the House, it was something many termed as unbelievable for a woman to rise through the ranks. How would you rate the increase in the inclusion of women participation in politics and, of course, in governance so far?
Yeah, it is only in a country like ours that people will see it as something, that is not supposed to happen. Women constitute more than 50% of the population, and you expect them not to be at this decision table. I think that is, not good enough. For any country to develop, you must have your women at the table, especially a country like Nigeria. We know the importance of women. We know a lot of things that women can do. Women can move mountains, and it has always been said that if you educate a woman, you educate a nation. But despite this, people still want to relegate the women. Imagine as the majority leader at that time, was not really what even the members in the House wanted. You know, I contested to the Speaker, and a lot of things happened, and that never happened. And then I became the leader of the House because I'm from the Southwest. The Southwest was supposed to produce the Speaker. And since I couldn't get that, the president felt that the Southwest must be compensated, even though that was not the proper thing, you know, that we wanted. So I think when you have children, you have boys and girls. And when you really look at these children, you see that even at times in some families, the girls are the stars of this family. So why would you want to relegate the women? If you want this country to develop, you need to bring the women, you know, to the same level as the men. We're supposed to be co-partners. We're supposed to be working together to develop Nigeria. But it seems the men, despite your having children, despite your sending them to school, spending a lot of money and all that, you still don't want the women to attain, you know, great heights. I don't know how this, you know, can be put together. So it's not something that, when I was leader of the House, I was the only woman in the leadership of the National Assembly. Out of 20 of us, I was the only woman. Is that fair? And after that, we've had maybe 2 other women, and right now we have maybe another woman and all that. So I don't think it is fair on the Nigerian women. Even the participation of women, everything is done to, you know, push them to the bottom or to discourage them. You want to hold your meetings, you put the meetings at night, you know, in the middle of the night, and they will tell you, nobody is giving you this on a platter of gold. A level playing field is what the women need. Once we get a level playing field, you see a lot more women in positions of authority. When it comes to elections, the same thing. There's so much violence and nothing is done. All you have in Nigeria are actions without consequences. And so if there are no consequences, you can never really get to where we're supposed to be.
All right, Honorable Akode, maybe you must have been following the program since we started. I also have a serving member of the House of Representatives, Professor Paul Namchi, and also an academic professor, Imam, in the studio. But we know you have 1 or 2 other engagements. They will be here to actually shed more light into some of the issues you've raised. But before we come back into studio here and allow you go and continue with other schedules that you have over there, what will be your projection, taking a look at the journey so far for 25 years?
The projection on this issue
on Nigeria's democracy, or Nigeria's democratic journey.
Yeah, you know, certain questions when asked, I just wonder, because we all know what to do. We know what democracy entails. We know what we're supposed to do. Our institutions are weak and they do anything without any consequence, just like I told you. If you want to really be a democratic country, take Nigeria to the place that we're supposed to be, then we have to go. We have laws, we have the constitution, we have the structures, we have the institutions of democracy that we need to strengthen. If at all, we need to really be a democratic country. Because this democracy has not been working, some people have been talking about going back to, you know, a parliamentary system of government. Some people are talking about having just a unicameral legislature and all that as you have. So it's something that has left a lot of people confused. Nigeria, as it is right now, very few people take decisions. In a democratic country, that shouldn't be the case. The will of the people should be in the forefront all the time. So when you are talking about where Nigeria will be, unless we take certain steps backwards and begin to rework those steps forward, I can't see us going beyond, you know, where we are right now, unless certain major changes take place.
Honorable Akode, I'd like to thank you for your time to join us and, of course, give us your own perspective on the journey so far. 25 years, no child's play, and the message is clear. It's about taking charge, taking responsibility, and taking Nigeria where it ought to be. We'd like to thank you for joining us from London, Honorable Akode.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. All
right, back in the studio here, Professor Paul Namchi and Professor Imam. Wow, some contribution we had there from London of someone who's been there. And it's easier to want to say Nigeria is not really moving the way it should be. It's about the pains and the gains. Let me now go back to you. You heard what Honorable Akonde rightly said there about getting more women involved, people knowing what to do but refusing to do it, building the capacity of our institutions. So far, so good. From the theoretical perspective, which you are, of course, is going to come in on what efforts that they're making at the National Assembly to get Nigeria to that level. Have we really fared that badly?
Well, quite frankly, again, like I said in the beginning, these are social issues that are subjective. And the reality is that when you see, the thing about expectation is there is expectation, there is unrealistic expectation, and then there's the middle ground. And we must understand the divergence, we must understand the complexities of the human being, you know, because human wants and needs and desires are insatiable, as has been said oftentimes. So therefore, it depends on who you're posing this question to. But then there are metrics, there are indicators, and there are indices that basically tells you if you have been making progress, how do you measure milestones, where have you gotten it wrong, what are the blockers, and so on and so forth. This also applies to institutions of governance as well, and also governmental systems. So the reality is this, that using any metric of measuring democracy as a form of government, you know, the reality is that whether it be the presence of the rule of law, whether it be periodic elections, whether it be, you know, freedom of association and so on and so forth, Nigeria has fared well. And there are certain indices that speaks to this fact. In 2015, Nigeria held an election that was adjudged one of the freest and fairest in the world. This was a time where the United States was contesting the outcome of its election, remember? Yeah. All right, so that gives you a feeler as to where we're coming from, where we are, and where we're going to. Our democracy, again, like we have said in the beginning, democracy in itself is a journey. It is never a destination. So, of course, it has its setbacks, it has its successes, and so on and so forth. But the reality is that certain indicators point us to the fact that we have been able to make some strides. When you look at our party politics in itself, for example, let's take that as one of the indices to measure what we're talking about here. The reality is our election is not where it was in 1999. If not for anything, look at the involvement of technology in our electoral process. Look at the reports that come from electoral observers over the years and measure that up with what was seen. Of course, the reality is these complaints will never go away, regardless of how you see democracy and its outcomes. I'm talking about a time where the United States has, this is its third century of its democratic journey and democratic life. It took the United States over 2 centuries to produce the first female speaker. How long did it take us? You know, so it goes to tell you that we are making some progress, but we must also understand that partisan politics is a game of number. You see, so oftentimes when people talk about women, the reality is there are a lot of women thriving and doing magnificently well in other spheres of the economy, magnificently well. You take our banking sector, for example, you find that the head of virtually all of our banking institutions are basically women, and they're thriving, they're excelling in their endeavor. So the reality is we cannot take one issue out of the entire socio-economic context, and then we begin to use that as a yardstick for measuring successes and failure. So as far as I am concerned, I think we have made some strides. We have made significant progress in our democratic journey. Yes, of course, there are lacunas, there are pitfalls, there are shortcomings that require us to come together as a people to begin to have a rethink, to have introspect as to where we intend to see ourselves in the next 25 years, so that we don't come back to the table and have the same conversation around development, for example, around growth, for example, around modernization, for example. You see, Nigeria's issues, in my view, are in 2 distinct categories. There's a socio-psychological conditioning of the Nigerian citizenry and its government, and then you have the socio-economic problems. In the category of the socio-psychological conditioning, you have the problem of the lack of patriotism, and then there is the crisis of discipline. Remember when Christine Lagarde was the country director of IMF and visited the country. She came to see President Buhari then, and she talked about a couple of things, part of them devaluation of a currency, which I don't subscribe to. But one of the major takeaways for me from that conversation was the fact that she said, Mr. President, your people are a bunch of indisciplined lots. Nigerians began to attack her. We refused to look at the message and dissect it and understand whether we're disciplined or not. All we took from that was a white face, or sorry, a woman or a foreigner coming into the country to insult us. Are these things there? Are there indices visible that says that we're disciplined or not? We need to have introspect and ask ourselves very critical questions. And then there's the socioeconomic issue. There's the huge gap in wealth distribution and income inequality that exists in our society, which we cannot take away. There is a crisis of infrastructural development. There's a deficit in housing. There's a deficit in virtually everything, in peace, in democracy, in governance itself. So these are all social issues that, of course, require the attention of stakeholders. By stakeholders, I mean both the sub and superstructure, governance and citizenry alike, to come together and have a decent conversation. For example, the National Assembly. There's a need for a recharge and a rejig within the National Assembly in the direction of motions and bills that are passed. We've seen the numbers, 1,000 bills, 1,000 this and that, but what impact do these bills have on the life of the ordinary citizenry? Because the question is not about the form of governance or the system of government. Trust me, a lot of people don't care what name you call your system of government, because it's about choice of nomenclature. What is critical to the average Nigerian is what is on his table. Can he feed? A country where 60% of the population are in the informal sector and have to go out and make a living every day to come back. What are the things that the National Assembly needs to do to put in place structures and infrastructure that will enable these category of individuals to be able to strive and thrive?
Professor Paul Nanchi, quite key points raised there. You're a serving member of the House of Rep. And so many things and feelings that we get is that most of you in that particular level of the society, hardly can you go back into your constituency without text messages, requests of different forms here and there. But unfortunately, it is often said that you alone, or even as a group, perhaps, will be able to do it in terms of what you're able to do, in terms of the policies you make. It spoke about getting, the impact, getting the people to feel the impact. Now, if you would want to come into this particular discussion now, what are those impacts that can make me, or that can make Emeka in Enugu East now feel the policy of governance and say, yes, I think I have a government representing my interests?
Okay, I will break this down to a very elementary level, so because I also know a lot of listeners are with us. First, the governance we have is people governing by the concept of those that are being governed. As I think I also have to disagree that the democracies have not, that our democracy has not improved since 1910, since 2015. Quite on the contrary. You don't see much of ballot box carrying, especially in the last election. Personally, myself, from the academics, wouldn't be there because I'm not a money bag. That is one yardstick I would also look at. In certain states, some governors couldn't make it even to come back as senators, which is their wish. And before, it is unimaginable. So our democracy is actually growing. It might not be perfect. That's what I say, it's dynamic. It will get there, I believe, but I also think that all hands must be on deck. Be the executive, the legislature, and also the judiciary. We will get there, I'm sure. He had just said that American democracy is over 300 years old. I also think that we've not done completely badly. Coming to the House, I will tell you, I will give you an analysis. One, the people are able to reach their National Assembly. That is something that is very good. That people can test you, people can call you. That means you are close to them. The issue is not that they are not being reaching them. That would be worse. In my own constituency, which happen to be a lot much big, the two local government with both rural and urban, a lot of people will call you. A lot of people want their load, maybe where they can actually offload their vengeance, offload their economic situation. However, I want to say, the democracy is not different from the economic realities of the people. The economic realities of the people, that things are hard. And there has been a lot of things that have gone unchecked. maybe the increase in removal of fuel subsidy, the increase in electricity, the other changes that have come in the society without an increase in electricity, and also increase in fuel price. Those things come without maybe a commensurate increase in wages from the people. But at the same time, also know that a lot much also in the informal sectors, which means they may not be receiving salaries like the white-collar workers. But at the same time, enabling environment should also be provided. What our people look at, most of the executives look at, how we can get more money from taxes and all that, but not how we can plow that back. And I think that what we need is where the people feel the impact. Democracy is about making people happy, or the majority of people are happy. And if the majority of people hasn't been feeling well, they have right to feel disappointed. However, if you compare what has been happening, I just told you what happened, how some governance occurred. There is in the last election, we witnessed the turnout that we've never experienced before. And I beg to disagree that this has been progressive. So it's progressive. However, apathy will set in when when people feel disappointed and others. But I also believe that we are moving to that place. We are not at the pyramid yet, but we are also moving towards it. And just as another presenter have said, that what we're experiencing is those upheaval, that's difficulty are there. The government, how do you elect our government? The process is actually the problem here. And for you, in the case of the government systems are not nomenclature. There are certain policies that you bring, certain policies or certain governmental effort that will come. There are certain people that can't venture into contesting certain positions because they know what they will face. And they know that every Tuesday, like in the case of US, they will come there and face the realities. I know that there could also be homegrown ones. But having said that, I would also say that if in the there is also state government. These are people that, if there's aggregates of this, are providing for the people, there will be more. The governance is no longer about just building. When you build road at a point, after 8 years, the other person start building whole road. So the governance has become about building road and repeating the road. And it isn't. It is about providing food. Food security. The present government is looking towards that direction. And it's also about building industry for people to work. 60% of our workers are in artisans. How are we able to build industries to put them there? It's democracy encompasses all these things. How are we raising the education level? How are we building where skills can be harvested? These are everything. These are things you need to have the country move forward. The democracy is not about just election and doing. It's about the governance as well.
Well, Imam, like the Honorable member just rightly said, I mean, it's a different ball game when you are not in these procedure and processes, and when you find yourself in there, sometimes like an identity crisis kind of, but you just have to suit into it. And now, from your own perspective, you're more involved with the largest chunk of Nigeria's population, the youth, because they all want to get involved in academics. And of course, those who are not into academics are using their brains to generate wealth. How do you think we can bridge this generational gap that we have that has consistently led to the belief that, oh, it's the older ones that are the problems of the country, while the younger ones are not even taking their own future in their own hands?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I have never really been an advocate of what's the word that is often used, replacing one generation with another, or power generational change or something. I've never really been an advocate of that, because the truth of the matter is there are good old people as much as there are bad young people, right? So when you say, let's wish away the older generation, by the way, you can't wish them away, they will not go anywhere. So when you say, let's wish away the older generation and the younger generation come to take up the mantle of leadership, it will amount to self-deceit, and that's the worst thing that can happen to anybody or group of persons. You know, you must work your way to, everything is a come up. You must start from the scratch and then work your way to the top. And you must, while working your way to the top, also ensure that you have exhibited the highest form of professionalism in whatever venture or endeavor that you have found yourself. And so the reality for me is every society has always been built on two things: the strength of the youth and the wisdom of the elders. And so standing to say that young persons must take over, the old persons must give way, it doesn't work. Look, that builds a sense of entitlement. And this is the reality about democracy, which I have often talked about. And it cuts across all demographics. You hear sometimes, not to sound revisionist, but then just to go back to the point earlier made, that some group of persons, women, say for example, would sit and say, we should be given. Partisan politics will not allow that happen. The young person sit and say, we should be given. It wouldn't happen. But it took effort for us to get the not too young to wrong bill passed. You know, these are the sort of efforts we should see. We should build platforms where young people and disadvantaged groups or demographics can come together, mobilize, and develop tactics and strategy. Look, as ascending to whatever position of success in life requires two things. It requires tactful thinking and it requires strategic actions. So therefore, you must ensure that you have these things in place. You must ensure that you're equipped with the requisite knowledge, the requisite tact, the requisite strategy that will allow you to get to certain position. Yes, of course, there is no doubt that, and by the way, it sounds very cliche when people say young people should come, old people should go. We should understand that it's about capability, it is about your ability to deliver. Of the young people we have had in position of authority thus far, I believe that, I stand corrected, but I believe that a good number of the young persons have basically let us down. We saw what happened in the previous administration and so on and so forth. So I think a lot more needs to be done. But one thing that is very critical in this conversation is to understand, and the viewers need to hear this and the leadership needs to hear this, that no meaningful development will come to this country without the input of the subnationals. The states are critical agents to any form of development as far as this country is concerned, or any other country for that matter. So when attention is paid to the central government alone, and we expect the central government to somehow concour some kind of magic and transform the lives of people, it doesn't work that way. People need to hold their state governors and local government and state houses of assembly members accountable. There is the need for these individuals at these different tiers to begin to come up with plans. I'm not talking about campaign strategy or slogans. Come up with plans and procedures that will ensure that you're trying to make meaningful impact. And there is no government in the world that has ever been able to do it alone. Any government that tries it hits the brick wall. The role of government and the banks in every society is to stimulate the economy and ensure that you create an enabling environment for people to come in and invest so that they can strive and thrive. Where that is not done, you find that foreign direct investment drags its feet. Where you have a currency war going on or a currency crisis, as we have in the case of the Nigerian naira to the dollar, you find that a lot of foreign direct investment will not be willing to come in, and the few you have in the country will begin to contemplate leaving the country. So government needs to begin to find the way. Look, the business of infrastructural development, the business of governance has to be taken seriously. It's high time our politicians understand that they must draw the line between politicking and governance. These are two different things. When you raise the dust and you politic and you get to a position of authority, leave that there. The business of governance has started, and Nigerians must ensure at every level that you hold government, whoever is in position of authority, to account the same way you stare yourself hard in the mirror and tell yourself that you have been able to deliver. Because there are two things. There is obligation and then there is rights. Well, your obligations, you must ensure that you deliver. Because if you don't do these things at the end of the day, you see, the thing with bad governance is that it is like a stray bullet. It doesn't pick and choose. It will hit anybody in its path.
Professor Imam here, it's been interesting having you in this conversation. Same with Professor Paul Namchi here. But we have to sign out Professor Imam here for some other engagements, while Professor Namchi here still has a lot to tell us about what is being done in the Federal House of Representatives in terms of preserving Nigeria's democracy. Remember, It's been 25 years, but before we come and continue our discussion, let's not forget the main reason why we're celebrating the June 12 Democracy Day. It's about one man known as Chief Moshood Kashimawo Lawale Abiola, the winner of the 1993 June 12 presidential election. Now, let's go over now to Agwagbo in Bagura in Ogun State, where there was a prayer held in memory of the late Chief MKO Abiola to honor him, especially on this special day. And our colleague, Lekon Agbonde, was there earlier in the day, and then he filed in this report.
To Ojagbo in Bagura area of Abeokuta. What we are celebrating today, the Democracy Day, June 12, and state government and organized a special prayer for the late MKO for the repose of his soul, along with some other Nigerians who paid the supreme price. And today, Nigeria is celebrating Democracy Day because of the foundation and contribution of this great man, MKO Abiola. A special prayer is being organized for him, and the prayer just ended, and we have a member of his family, one of his sons, who will talk to us about what this Democracy Day means to the family and its significance in the annal of history of Nigeria as a nation. And we have Mr. Amin Abiola. Thank you, Mr. Amin. Today, the federal government and Nigeria in general is celebrating June 12 and a Democracy Day. Now, as a member of the family, what does this mean to the family?
Well, June 12 signifies a day to remember our father, a true hero of Nigeria, a martyr, and so many other people who laid their lives down for us to have or to enjoy the democracy that we truly celebrate today. It is a day to reminisce and think carefully, and to feel that some people really laid down their lives for what we truly enjoy today. And from the message of His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and so many other state governors, including the governor of Ogun State, Prince Oladapo Abiodun MFRCON, you would see that a lot of Nigerians see a good reason why late Chief MKO Abiola should be celebrated annually. And I want to use this opportunity to appreciate and to extend my appreciation to the Ogun State government for thinking and extending their generosity to the Abiola family.
Thank you very much. Yes. Now, the Democracy Day is celebrated in Abeokuta with a lot of activities lined up. Today, this special prayer, the Deputy Governor represented the Governor at this occasion for the special prayer. As the activities continue, the attention is now being shifted to the June 12 Cultural Center, where a commemorative lecture will be held. The theme of the lecture is June 12, defining moment in the democratic development in Nigeria. A public affairs analyst will give us the lecture. That is Richard Akinola at the June 12 Cultural Center, where the dignitaries will be gathered and discuss the June 12 and Democracy Day, and especially the impactful contribution of late Chief MKO Abiola. Now we return to the studio with the rest of the program.
Lekon Agbonde there in Ojagbo. Earlier today, in commemoration of June 12 in honor of late Chief MKO Abiola. Of course, the June 12 saga, well, many would remember because of the significance it holds for Nigeria's democracy. But notably would be the June 11 declaration in Ekpetedo, which led to the self-declaration of Chief MKO Abiola as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that later led to his arrests and, of course, The rest, like they say, now is history. But if you're just tuning into this program, this is a special broadcast for the June 12th Democracy Day celebration. And Professor Paul Namchi, still with me in the studio, is a serving member of the Federal House of Representatives. Professor Paul, you just saw that report in honor of that man, Chief MKO Abiola. But in retrospect, I think it's a bit instructive to make it clear that while MKO seemed to be the lead figure of that struggle of June 12, 1993, there were so many other people involved in the struggle that perhaps have not gotten the deserved attention that they should.
Absolutely, they should, and they need to, because they deserve it. Well, it's not a one-man affair. Prominent, I would also mention, like his deputy, which is Babagana Kingibe. He will also be known because the two were a good team that showcased the best democracy. Where were people who are united, irrespective of tribe, religion, or other creeds. These are things that will clamor today in the country. By the way, I would also suggest that the home of MKO Abiola should also be named June 12 Center. So that that's to maybe move a bit forward to immortalizing him with that. I know a lot of some things have been named after him, but that his home will remain a symbol. What we'll look at maybe after 100 years, what is this made for? Why is this here? This, so that the effort doesn't go with history. So sometime the day people will start asking, why are we actually celebrating today as this day? There must be a symbol somewhere when maybe he will have his statue and everything. It becomes a monument. Even those of them who were part of the struggle will also have their own image there. You have their pictures where they stay together to plant things. This can also be used to immortalize not just MKO, but all of them. We also know that the president is part of it. We also know a lot of other people who are Beko Ransom-Kuti, the famous senior advocate of the masses, that we know Gani Fayemi, and a host of others. These people, by the way, need also recognition by the people. Generation comes and generation goes. There's a time that the activities begin to go down. I thank also the people that have also made it possible to celebrate today as Democracy Day. It's worth it. It's deservedly great. And I also know that, but I also think that more effort should be put into making that. And I also thank the Oyo State government for what they have put together. Probably it is long overdue. So that his place will just not be renovated, but also made a democracy center, a June 12th center, just to give that accolade. It deserves that place. It deserves to get such recognitions. So I also did think that not just celebrating, but also have activity leading to that day. I'm sure it's not going to overshadow the Independence Day in any case, but there's also one form of independence or the other. Because if we don't have democracy now, there's a lot of things that will not be in place. Q is out of fashion. This is the man that's paid the price with the supreme price with his life, because it is not easy. I'm sure a lot of things were going forth in his mind when he went to declare. And Nnamdi Azikiwe, the late president of Nigeria, Nnamdi Azikiwe, once said, there is only a madman that confronts somebody with a gun. This man may not have been, he's not mad, but he confronted people with a gun. And the outcome is what me and you know today, because the mentalities are not the same. But he went ahead. He has paid not just for himself, but for the country. It is also one of the things that made sure that democracy was quickened. It's implicit that June 12 or the 1993 election or the fallout of 1993 election was the main reason why 1991 happened. And that is also the reason why the military regime then looked towards Southwest. Otherwise, it was being contested between President Obasanjo and in the intra-party between President Obasanjo and Chief Alex Ekweme, the former vice president. And it was imperative that why they looked towards President Obasanjo from the Southwest was as a result of the outcome of June 12, 1993 election, where the Southwest maybe was trying to be calmed or be pacified based on the outcome of losing that their illustrious son, because he's an illustrious son. Every village will also adore him. I know his own consistency may have been doing that, but also the country will also need to do more in his own community and all that, to look to make it to internalize that actually more. The state government may not do more. He's a national figure, not a state figure, and I also think that we're on the process. Maybe the president will do that before the tenure finishes.
All right, still discussing about the June 12 and the man in the big picture that's talking about Chief MKO Abiola. People will want to say that the level of struggle that we had then in terms of youth, active participation by the youth in the democratic and electioneering process, that the interest seemed to have waned a little bit. Is it possible, or what are the possibilities of having deliberate and conscious efforts to really have youth take charge? Professor Imamda just stepped out, talked about getting the not too young bill, into law, and then getting more people. But he also stated rightly that even when some young people have been given the opportunity to serve, there's been less to desire from them.
Yeah. It is neither here nor there. It is not just the young people, it is the good people who want. It's the right people when we start getting the round peg in the round hole or the square peg in the square hole, we start getting that. Having come from the university background and lecturing and others, I hear comments from people. The major thing is the apathy. If we start having good governance, good election, the electioneering process, people see it to be free and fair. People see it to be transparent. I'm telling you, the youth will join in. Nobody wants to go and join politics easily where there is violence. If you can imagine training your kids up to one certain level and you just lose it because of electoral violence, people don't want that. And that's what is part of distancing a lot of youth from being involved in the electoral process. But by the way, I will also refer you that most of the elections activities are done by youth corps who are youths. There's a number of them also involved in the election process. It's also need an education to know that this is their future they are doing. That it is not about maybe somebody giving you money to put this number, put the other number. It is also about your future. If the person you elected cannot deliver on the governance, cannot give you a job, you are also at fault. Then I also bring to you, unless it's the bill, one of the bills that was presented to the House yesterday for second reading. The bill was that in the past, where you have people miscalculate and give maybe overvoting, some are deliberately or non-deliberately, and that result will become cancelled. Everybody that has taken part in the election just goes, and maybe it leads to maybe unfavorable outcome or favorable outcome, as the case may be, depending on who is involved. The National Assembly is taking towards criminalizing it for the person that have not checked and increased the number of votes as more than number of accreditation, that he also becomes liable to litigation. These are some of the measures the National Assembly is also trying to put into the system. To a large extent, he who wins should also, whom the people deserve, should also be given opportunity to represent their people. It is wrong for you to try by all means to enforce the people to be above to govern those that don't want you to govern them. I think it's criminal. Even though the law may not see it, certain indices may not see it that way. But I also see it morally, it is a very bad approach. It is not do or die. You must also see the people. I'm telling you honestly, if you go to the streets like those of us in the assembly or in the other positions, you know that people want you. You know when people don't want you. Irrespective of what you want, you know that the people want you or the people don't want you. There is those that have gone 2 or 3 times, but whenever they come, the people are, you see, it is the people's people, the people's person, or man, in this case maybe. So it isn't about enforcing your will on the people, but the people's will of being on themselves. The democracy is about having the concept of the people you want to govern. We realize that it's also a complex, but I also think it should be simplified in a way that our result, take for example, if in a case that you have, we're talking about the youth, so I'm not digressing here. I'm not digressing, but I'm just, why I try to make this point clear is that most time, the people that conduct the election are the youth. So if you cry for bad election, we'll also try to make yourself, try to link yourself to what have I done to better this the process. Because it's also about the industry you work tomorrow. It's not about the road you go tomorrow. It's also about like throwing, my contemporary just said, throwing stone in the market. Bad governance is like throwing stone. You don't know who will have accident because of bad road. You don't know somebody who will die because there's no good hospital. So it is all encompassing, both the youth and elderly. But in the case of this one, getting the youth, I can tell you, the crop of people we have in the National Assembly today, you have seen the number of bill, 1,300. It isn't that they are just writing bill for on frivolous means or that, but it is also the zeal. Everybody wants his consistency to know that they are here.
Now, talking about inclusion.